um, Canada, and we're glad she's here with us. And we've already shared the wonderful work she does and she's still doing in Canada. She is an accomplished woman, and I'm gonna let her kind of, share with us more of what she does, where she's coming from, what her visions are, what actually motivates her on a daily basis to do what she does. And we're always thankful for the opportunity that we're getting from the Disability Channel and the Transform You and the Park. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to reach our audience with our message, and that is the message of good news, health, um, getting all the access that women and children need in the global world, and also talking about what is going on in the environment, individual lives, families, and communities. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to Dr. Cheryl Okoli. Please come in and share with the rest of us.
Well, thank you very much for having me to begin with. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Um, that's quite the big question you asked of me in terms of all the things you'd like me to share, but I think maybe I can share it in the form of story format, and maybe that might help from a, okay. Okay, okay then. So first and foremost, let me start about my origins, if that's helpful. Okay, so I am a Canadian citizen born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, but did not grow up in Canada. I grew up on three continents. So I was about 2.5 years old when I left Winnipeg and went back to Nigeria. I said back to Nigeria because that's where my parents were originally from, and lived there for about 9 years. So my childhood was spent in Nigeria, and then we moved to the Middle East, and I was there for about 7 years. So all of my teen years were spent there, and then came back to Canada, basically to go to university. So I share that background because all of that plays an integral part in forming who I am. So moving like that, and on top of that, when I was in Qatar, I actually went to a Pakistani school. So I was exposed to different cultures in the Middle East, so the Arab culture, Pakistani culture, a little bit of the Indian culture. And in that school, in the Pakistani school, I had to be quite independent because there were some subjects that were more aligned with either their language or the religion, which didn't align with me. So when I say didn't align, well, I couldn't speak Urdu fluently, so I can't take any course in that. So anyway, cut a long story short. So that made me very independent. My family come from a background that really struggled in education. One thing my dad said that stayed with me till today is study to gain knowledge and not to pass exam. And that has stayed with me. And then from my mom, I would say my mom really instilled my spiritual foundations. So now here I am back in Canada. I actually, believe it or not, wanted to be a dancer. But my parents were like, no, there's no future in that. But then I also like to teach. And my mom knew that I had a natural inclination to teach. And then she's like, what about nursing? You can teach and also help people at the front lines. I wasn't really convinced, to be honest with you, because she came from a nursing background. But eventually I thought, you know what? I think I'll go with that. So I started nursing. So my foundation is nursing. And I knew that I would not be a frontline nurse. I just knew that somehow, that I would either end up in community. So with time, when I just finished my 4th year, well, it was my 4th year practicum, I chose the operating room. Now you're like, the operating room? Well, the operating room is kind of like acute care, but not really. There's something different and unique about the operating room. I graduated, and guess what? When I went to nursing school, it was New Brunswick. So straight from Qatar to New Brunswick from nursing school, moved to Calgary a year after I graduated. And then basically, like to say, my ticket to Calgary, Alberta, was the operating room course, because you can't just graduate from the operating room and start working. So you can't just graduate from nursing school and work in the operating room. You need extra education. So at that point in time, there were only two places I could find in Canada that offered that extra course, if you will. And somehow I happened upon a course being offered in Calgary, Alberta. And I got in. They actually paid us as opposed to me paying for it. So I thought that was destiny, part of destiny. So I said that was my ticket out here, but I believe there's a greater cause for me to end up in Calgary. That was just my ticket out here. So quite a long story short, I was in the operating room for 10 years. And during those 10 years, I knew I wanted to do my master's. So I went back to graduate school, did it online. So you might have heard of Walden University, perhaps. And I didn't want it to be too clinically focused. So my master's was in leadership and management. It was actually nursing, but the specialty was leadership and management. So I graduated with that. So at that point in time, when it came to my capstone project, now this would get you to where I am right now, hopefully. I made a promise to myself and to God. And what was the promise? I promised that if ever I had a chance to empower people to deal with conflict resolution, I would. And why? Sadly, throughout my career till then, I hadn't seen conflict being dealt with appropriately. And what do I mean by that? Conflict can be constructive or destructive, but sadly, people automatically put the negative lens to it. So I was sadly at the brunt of some destructive conflict, but I decided to spin it around. So my capstone project ended up being in conflict resolution, and I felt I was able to fulfill that promise in the sense that it ended up being a manual that was published. The publisher found the value, and I'm grateful and humbled by that. Now, fast forward. Here I am. During those 10 years I mentioned I was operating, I went back for my graduate studies, and I thought I wasn't really using my master's. I was very, 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 very restless. So I decided to try teaching at the university for 1 year. I didn't mind it. So I was a nursing practice instructor for 1 year. And I liked it, but I thought that wasn't really where my home would be, if you will. And I remember one of my brothers asked me the question, what do you want to do? And I remember saying, I want to be a clinical nurse specialist. I want to use my master's degrees. I want to be challenged. You know the saying, be careful what you wish for? So that very same year, I said that. And that would have been the beginning of 2014. I said that. Then behold, a job did open up, and I was able to use my master's as a clinical nurse specialist. And it ended up being in the home care department. So for those who may not know what I mean, so think of the healthcare industry having different departments or branches. So you have acute care, you have community care, you have home care, you have long-term care. So the home care department, so basically healthcare providers going into the home. So it could be professionals like nurses, physiotherapists, social workers going to the home. My specific specialty was dementia, so dementia care, okay? So it was definitely very challenging, but in a good way as well. So the role of the clinical nurse specialist is all about leadership, education, research, evaluation, advancing nursing practice, right? So it was a leadership role, right? So I really enjoyed it. I really, really did enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, there were challenges, more so from more of an interpersonal versus a client care. But what I loved was the opportunity to be a change agent at a systems level. So whenever I had an opportunity to write proposal to improve the quality of life of the patients we serve, the families, the clients we serve, or employees as a whole, because for me, I like to look at things from a holistic lens, so the physical, mental, social, cultural, plus a micro and macro level. So I'm all about systems. Where are the gaps? If there are gaps, how can we bridge the gaps? How can we prevent gaps from happening? Okay. So I was in that role for 3 years. And before the 3 years were up, I knew I was going to pursue my doctorate. Now, I have two passions: healthy workplaces, and from a clinical lens, empowering basically raising public awareness for women living with symptomatic uterine fibroids. So in 2014, the same year, I got that job as a clinical nurse specialist. My business was founded. Shalom Eagles Wings was founded. And it was found because, again, I saw the gaps in the care of women living with uterine fibroids. I believe in early detection leads to early intervention, leads to decreased suffering. So that's how my business was birthed. So I was providing one-on-one consultation, and mind it was in its infancy stage. So I had two things now. The CNS job, clinical nurse specialist job that opened up, and my business had founded. You can't do two things very well. So the business had to be on the back burner, to be quite honest. I mean, I had a few consultations with clients, but I put most of my energy into the clinical nurse specialist job, okay? Now, fast forward, when it came for the time for my doctorate, I was like, do I run with conflict resolution themed program, or do I run with the uterine fibroids, women's health? And I decided, you know what, I'm going to run with conflict resolution themed in the sense that I'm going to pursue a non-clinical doctorate. I ended up graduating, and thank God, with a doctorate of health administration. Now, when you think about what that entails, it cuts across all disciplines. It's all about leadership and systems transformation, the list goes on, right? At a high scale, right? And policies, right? So I ran with that. And my business, Shalom Eagles Wings, I set up being for women only, basically bloomed to now encompass me providing consultation services in things like strategic management, risk management, quality improvement. So as an example, Shalom Eagles Wings, which is my business, think of it as threefold: consultation, advocacy, and empowerment. Under the consultation now is either the clinical lens of the women uterine fibroid, or I like to cater to executives or business owners or managers to help them basically optimize their businesses and their organizations in strategic management, risk management, the list goes on. Under advocacy, my latest initiative is catering to healthcare providers who are burned out or perhaps have experienced bullying and harassment. You ask why? Well, healthcare providers are forever pouring themselves, giving themselves to everyone. But my question is, who takes care of them? And I mean holistically. I'm not talking about, employee recognition lunch. That is good, but it's not enough. So this business is called Renata Wellness and Recreation Retreat. Its inaugural opening will be September 23rd, 2023. And the original model of this business is supposed to be a 3-day, 3 nights. So think of it as having light learning, so courses of a class like conflict resolution, and that will be organization development. Why? Because we want to empower employees to be positive change agents wherever they are. There's going to be group counseling, because like I mentioned, these are individuals that are either burned out or at risk of burnout. It's an opportunity for them to gather and chat in a group session, and that way they can realize that perhaps they're not alone. Because one of the worst things for someone to think they're going on a journey on their own, and those can be false perceptions, right? And then there's going to be lots of recreation. There's going to be dance classes, massage, and art, and food. Because think of it, again, I mentioned it caters physical, mental, social, cultural, spiritual. So all those domains will be addressed at this retreat. And then last but not least, empowerment. So remember, Shalom Eagles Wings consultation, advocacy, and empowerment. So under empowerment, I'm also a certified conflict resolution coach as well. And I'm really honored and privileged, and an organization by the name of Win-Win Women. And this is why I just stop and think about it. One of the things I said was, I want to influence change, not just at my community level, like in Alberta, nationally and globally. Some people might be like, that's such a high, tall order of ambition. But this organization by the name of Win-Win Women, they were the ones who reached out to me. They found me. And one of the questions the founder asked me when an opportunity arose. They're like, if you were to have your show, what would you talk about? For me, it was a no-brainer. Evolution, because again, that promise I made, right? And I like the autonomy, but it's always about, I look at things from interpersonal values, systems, process, tasks, and when appropriate, I might integrate the women's health. But mostly, it's all about how do we address conflict constructively, be it an issue that has processes, tasks, different topics in the healthcare industry, and how can we address them? So sometimes I inject an infusion of quality improvement strategies as well on my show as well. So I think I'll pause there for now. So that's kind of like what I'm doing and what I've been involved. Always looking for more clients as well.
Right. Wow. Well, that's a lot that you do, and you know that. So I am so excited for you for all that you'll be doing in this whole launch that you're going to be having in September. So, and that's actually for our audience out there to know. Please, I would like you to also share your, information. So if people are, looking for you, I know they can always reach out to you through us, but if you share your information, people can get, close, connected to you directly. So, and that is really awesome. One thing about women that I've come to realize is that women are change makers from the grassroots. I mean, like change agents. You talk about it and we live it. Like it's a natural thing for women. And most women do this unannounced, they're so unassuming about it. And that is why also they've been taken for granted in most places. That a lot of what women do in our world today, beginning with our families, they go unrecognized. They're all taken for granted. And I always encourage women to stand up for your own rights, for take responsibility for who you are, and share it. Because honestly, if you don't, nobody dies. So I like the idea that you had, the conflict resolution that you talked about, and you have seen it firsthand. And when we work as nurses, there's gonna be conflict all the time because you're working with other people, you're also dealing with patients and their families. So it's well, we're all human, and there's gonna be that tendency to run into one conflict or the other. It's totally human, but the question is, how do we resolve it? And I'm glad that you have the expertise in so many different levels that you want to help everybody. Every single person, be it individuals, be it families, and even we're talking about entities, and talking about all this huge. Now we have all the global technology that is really gripping everybody. And the question is, who do you turn to in times of conflict? Who helps you out? Who tells you, sit down, take a deep breath, let's figure this out? There are few people in today's world who can do that, and you are one of them. So I am so thankful that you're doing this and that you're just being out there, reaching out to anybody and everybody who needs your care. And that's a lot of us. That's almost all of us because conflict, like I said, is a natural thing. Question is, how do we deal with it? How do we really handle it positively so that it doesn't spill over and destroy the whole system? Because that's what happens. The whole structure gets destroyed. It takes just a little conflict that is badly handled before the whole pulls down the whole system. And when we talk about women, we are all sensitive, very sensitive, to a point that as nurses, I think we are even sometimes oversensitive, that we tend to take everything in, and that eats up a lot of us. physically, emotionally, and otherwise. So for you being out there trying to help us take care of this, for me, it's really a huge thing. Now, since you've started, I know you've been doing this also, even though do it in a global, like as a your organization, you're gonna be doing it as it should. But I know that before now, you have dealt with conflict on individual level, local level, and even family level. What has that been for? How has that been for you?
Okay. It's not fun. Again, it depends on your perspective. Okay.
Right.
So one of the things I would like to leave with people, the audience, is a mnemonic, my original 5 P's of conflict resolution mnemonic. And the reason why I'm saying that, it will help answer your question. So the very first A is assess.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask me how has that been for me? So basically, I have to assess this conflict situation. How important is it? Is it the right time to deal with it? Is it worth dealing with it? If I say yes, it is, then I need to approach it. So that's the second A's approach. So the question now is, how do you approach the individual? Okay? Do you approach the individual alone or with somebody? Because in the workplace, for instance, depending on who it is, if there's a power imbalance, for instance, right? For some, you might need to come with a union. If it's the family setting, again, depending on how your relationship is with that family member, you might feel okay going by yourself. But in addition to how you approach, the timing is also important, right? I don't know if you've heard of the whole HALT mnemonic. It's not mine, but basically it's all about if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, don't deal with it.
Exactly. Yes.
So if you feel you've passed the test on all of the HALT, you've halted, HALT, you've halted, then you approach, right? Next, you want to analyze with the person, okay? Analyze what is going on here, brainstorm together. Okay, and then after brainstorming, you assert politely. Share your perspective. Listen to the other person's perspective. Try not to be defensive because the minute we start becoming defensive, barriers will just go up. Okay, and then you want to. So we talked about assessing, approaching, analyzing, asserting. The last is agree to disagree. You may or may not come to this point, but the reality is that there's some conflict situations you cannot see eye to eye. But the difference is you need to be respectful of each other, be able to offer the metaphorical handshake. The onus is on the other person to take it or not take it, but you've offered it, right? Metaphorically, right? Or sometimes literal. So my point is this. So how has it been for me? So usually those steps is what I've taken when I remember. I'm a human and we have egos.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I've tried to stop and ask myself, what side of the coin do I want this conflict to end on? Just like a coin has heads and tails, I ask myself, do I want this conflict to end on a constructive manner or on a destructive manner? And it's just seconds to make that decision, right? Mm-hmm. Because we've all heard about is how you make someone feel is what they remember about you. So I have to make that split decision. So how has that been for me in the workplace? It was really hard. There have been times when I disappeared crying my eyes out. But again, one thing you battle with, sometimes it's your calling or your ministry to change it. Right. So I shed lots of tears over the years, but I'm beginning to realize it was all part of the molding process, the shaping process for the work I'll be doing right now. How can you really empathize with people if you do not walk the journey? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yes. So I've answered your question a little bit in the workplace setting. How has that been for me? Mm-hmm. And again, it depends on your environment. But I mean, So in the workplace, if you have a toxic environment, sadly, it's just destructive conflict. But if you have a psychological safe environment, and what I mean by that is an environment where you feel comfortable sharing concerns without fear of being penalized, oppressed, boycotted, stigmatized, and all the things, all those destructive behaviors. If you have a conducive environment, and especially if you have a superior that has a good listening ear, respectful, and is willing to take feedback, either or, be it constructive, right? That's when change can happen, right? So there came a point in times when I felt hurt, and there were times when I didn't feel hurt. The onus was upon me. I'm like, you know what? For my clear conscience, my ethical and legal obligation, I need to report certain things I need to report. But then how can I be a solution? Hence, I mentioned earlier, I will come up with proposals and submit it to my management. Up to them what they did with it. Sometimes they went with it, sometimes they just ignored it. I'm like, you know what? I've done my That's all I could do.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I love pragmatic approach to conflict, and like use natural normal how we handle it and different layers, and handling it. And involves everybody. Once that conflict solution, it's gonna everybody from top to bottom, and that's where the challenge lies. Not everybody is ready at the same time for to resolve, and that's what lingers on. And time, others are like they have developed tough skin or unforgiving that it is. So that's one of the huge challenges I have seen in healthcare. I haven't worked elsewhere, but worked like in it is the same. But in health, it's so critical is that we're with people physically as well as mentally. So that's other settings is different. I talked to somebody, one of my friends, she's an engineer. Whenever I say to her, it's easier to deal with pressure humans, because you have to be careful, delicate. If your bill comes down, thank goodness there's nobody there. In the healthcare industry, with people physically, help them, or both, so we have to be aware of that. And then another thing that I know that to women, thing about the symptomatic fibroids that some women, and for me it is critical because I'm beginning to see a lot. I mean, it used to be like even 15, you didn't get a whole lot of that, but I think women coming up with those symptoms. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's also interfering with that, whether it's life, or social life and everything. Some people are having various symptoms that you never, in the last 10 years or so. So I'm glad also there trying to help. Johnny is something that we know when it comes to our process to that. I would like you to share with us, if possible, if there are things that you have, dealt with, the ones that ended up well, and the ones that didn't end up well.
Sure. So I guess my with this began, I'll say, in the operating. I worked in the operating room, and my specialty was general surgery, and I did gynecology as well. So with the uterine fibroids, again, motto, early detection action to early to decrease suffering. Obviously, symptomatic. Yeah. Talk about symptomatic. So when you talk about symptomatic, physical and psychological. Physical could be the mental bleeding, fertility issues. It could be pain, it could be bloated. It could that's physical. As psychological, it could be depression, fear of being in marriage, especially for someone who lives with menorrhagia. They have to choose garments. They have to organize social periods, demonstration cycles. Sometimes this work. Psychologically, non-standing, right? And maybe financial when you work on that time, right? And if they're not from a lower social status, maybe they can't afford the product. So what things that I dealt with face to face, again for them in time where they were basically desperate, and they maybe they just care about me, and them just want to see the follow up. I haven't been focused much right now, even though I'm going back into the research and trying to connect with patients that basically I'm saying to implement a standardized screening protocol. That's what I've taken up in the past few weeks now. But anyway, but going back to your question, so when they came to, I can recall here the hysterectomy would be the next for them. The reality is, it's not hysterectomy is the go-to modality of treatment, because I teach and consultation, I integrative medicine. So I talk about the medical, surgical, and alternative medicine. Usually things to do with what the first country called waiting, basically to see what they grow, what they call symptoms. And then classifications of medical could be the lupron kit, but it's hormonal. Also, once the lupron is going to grow again. And then just the pain control or medication decrease the amount of bleeding, for instance. Surgical, now there are newer modalities. Really, could be things like, which is the uterine artery embolization. So again, I'll just use the word particles into the uterine. The key is or the right is that you're entering the blood. Yeah, so going to the fibroids, right? USE, UAE, uterine embolization, uterine fibroid embolization, directly inhibiting the blood flow to the cell. And so these two are invasive. And recovery time is usually less than a week. Flow, loss, or that. And of course, you have myomectomies. Some who had already had a myomectomy before, and sadly, the recurrence of the myomectomy. One of the latest, I kind of just 10 years ago in 20 minutes, and what had to do back then, people weren't very receptive. But now, as a project, white dress project, meditation people, they're a group of research advocates, everyone involved, not just research, also interpreters. They have had a lived experience in fibroids and have vested research and treatment. So as one of the docs on the going research, which is group mention is vitamin D and EGCG. But I'm like, really?
I know, right?
So that's what I'm not recommending. Still in research, there are like people to do again myomectomy and chance of parents. So they recommend this, what I just mentioned, the GCG, which is an extract of feed. They recommend that intervention because when you go into a secondary and
right, yeah.
So supplements and vitamin D is more so of a primary. They are recommending use or have to have a myomectomy, go on to the vitamin D, and this is what they're recommending. Okay, so yeah, so with the women, like I said, for fear one-time consultation works, get a comprehensive history, but submit it ultrasound results because I want to see of the features of fibroids. The term is different treatments, right? And again, I what to do. I ask what's your desire? You want to have children in the future? I use and one question that 1 hour. The first history, comprehensive history take 3.5 hours answering any of your questions. So usually then when they come to me, it's usually very and then some other parties who are what we wish you I want hysterectomy with any other treatment. And I did mention this in another one, magnetic energy, magnetic resonance, no, magnetic resonance, you're in a machine, the uterus, and max. Are you?
Yeah.
Yes, that as well. And time for recovery. Myomectomy, minimum 6 for some women might be. Of course, this chance of blood loss is always important. I think Scottic procedure. And now there's coming up. There's new missions. Thankfully. Yeah. Okay, so going back to the alternative protocols, I do teach about as the one consensus conventional, that's consensus. So I teach increase by decreasing estrogen. I say xeno, potato, foreign soil into your body. It would be through the chemicals like of color. If you have correlation, I'm not saying correlation. Now let's use the legal terminology. Not causation. Black cells, the chemical health products. Correlation fibroids. Okay. Either say new case or already pre-existing, right? Whenever they let exams still of estrogen in the red, white flour, both for the whole you want the brown, your cruciferous, and that has to do with the formation of flowers of these plants, like cruciferous, so your body and all these things. So you get supplement. There's some get that, but again, be careful if you want to get it. Don't go and get supplements, right? That's some people who've got it, but again, primary must let them be taken at all times. So
yeah, this thing honestly, one is that with the people covered and with fibroids, and some people are now thinking that it could be But the thing is, like we say, especially talking about joy, and when people, food waste has been the culprit. Food and other women take, and I know majority of the past depended on food and national case in the years, escalating opinion these days.
Okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Here, two things. It's hereditary. It can be hereditary. Strong that it is hereditary. So second, that but let me provide another perspective. In Africa, most of the food tend to be food. You have what the word organic. When we say organic, or it's a certificate, is that the food is in it. Hormones and antibiotics of estrogen, so of xenoestrogen. But going back to countries in Africa, they still have high incidence of uterine fibroids. Now, they ask the question why that was because of low insulin. Now, some blame is one of the rationales. This for dark skin might prevent. I love to say it, but I love it. And chocolate here acts like a barrier to prevent us from absorbing the vitamin D. Correlation with the new stage as the vitamin D deficiency with uterine fibroids formation. Hence, earlier this week, it's recommending this vitamin D. So they were finding that chocolate can be. So I highly recommend that women that yes, the evidence shows in people the fibroids and severity comes much younger. So we're talking about 20 and more severe. Okay, so my recommendation is as soon as you can, especially if you have history, of course, once because of childbearing women post Myrna, by the first period, that's what 100 women, 5 of them will have fibroids. But the question is, are they symptomatic? So some statistics say I like to use the 1 in 4 statistic. Fibroids. But the question is it symptomatic? Is it causing? And size can be a size P. Again, if issues just can be.
Right. Well, it's not okay.
Well, we do public awareness. We not mostly with other ethnic backgrounds, maybe the Arabs as well. Some Arab Muslim countries, what they're biased.
Yeah.
So they're not inviting these communities, right? So then critical thing, targeting thing, public awareness for all, trying to for it to be legislation. Exactly.
Yeah. When you're in D, there was a study conducted here in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is one of the and really get sun. And we're talking about people of color living in this city I was home visiting. We found women with, and they found that not only they have some here, but for this population, they're not absorbing much. So they get depression. You think, oh yeah, I this population, you get depressed, post which even one has the baby. So vitamin D, and that was what they found that single woman place had to be on vitamin because it has this it's been proven to be an antidepressant.
So here in North America, Europe, 2,000 international minimum daily. Now, if you okay, anyone that doesn't even have, regardless of mobility,
right,
the whole depression thing, there is a condition called SAD, which affect disorder, and that's low vitamin D. But here in Canada, there's Vancouver, British perpetually. I couldn't live there just because of rain. But even if the winters are long, people's seasonal affect is sad. They actually do, and they're learning it. So talk to me, I'm like, vitamin D level. It's about that. My supplements. Yeah, and then seniors as well. Another person that need to be on vitamin D for seniors. But if they take time too as well. Yeah. So no, they better value. And that's a thing. Legislation. I think that's a bone of contention among certain circles that chocolate historically he was one of levels checked up. Well, Canada versus United States. So we're funded. So she could just check vitamin D about how many years it was. You have to pay for it. The people who have a category of people who don't, they must belong to a list of vitamin D deficiency. Then they can get it maybe free. But for everyone else that's not paid to get, so there was an advocacy group I know who was like, no, we color, well, she's the B, not the B, the black word.
Right.
So she did advocate at the legislative level, but no, you guys let us. That's part of our life. So uterine fibers are right. So something different for us. She's not your let's make that. Okay. So yeah, because the uterine fibers for it is a public health emergency. Going to calculate cost, not just the financial cost of surgery, right?
Yeah.
But the women, emotionally, psychology, and all that is not worth. Just do something, please, right?
Yeah. Women, different layers of concerns, needed action like last year, but people are, taking their time, and sometimes they say actually that when you're thinking about it of anybody or somebody is not sitting, I don't think you do a whole job taking care of the woman if given that opportunity. And so when we look at our policymakers, I'm talking about the United States because that's and I see You look at the healthcare, and then you have policy makers. Most of them have no clue of what they're talking about. You know, yeah, really policies. What do we? So, as much as possible, we have to get awareness. Saying, you know, we need to be at the table. Yeah, because you're there. Decides for you, they're not going to decide because they don't know what you're going through. They don't know what you're talking. You know, we're talking about child care, and then when the team comes out, I see 5 men or 6 and a woman, and I'm like, yeah, here we go. How does it work?
Well, it's a very good point. Talking about the whole EI, equity, what is it? Inclusion and diversity. Yeah, women being okay. Actually, a movie that I recommend it to G.
Okay.
It's Indian, but moral and very thought-provoking. Because Ghana College who wrote his repeated, but that's all that was available. And he's come back as he wouldn't want it. He's not a women. What he said is to school. One group is right. The other, you don't have to be a to understand what women was coming from. But eventually, his processes and processes, and end up being a very good guy. But anyway, the point is, yes, I at the table, but we've also had for Ghana college male as well, but never keeping off inclusion and diversity. Yeah, we should have policy making levels at the board levels. There are changes happening. Women at those tables need to be right. Where nurses actually in Canada about our nurses to renew their registration, their standard, which one for your continuing development. There is a section of they're beginning to recognize nurses not just at the point with the patient in them, but at the point. And also it could and areas and other sectors understand that when a nurse speaks upbeat in the meeting or when the political is going. Intent is positive changes that affect populations. Right. There, I believe there's a gap whereby there are some people, if they speak out, they're going to be disciplined by either or the regular proper education needs to be done along this line. For me now, speaking at time live, maybe years ago, people say, "Oh, but that's the beauty of having your
right."
Then, if you're an employee, it's wrong if anything just said. That's why so people don't feel say something, they're gonna be penalized, right? Yeah. There's got to be those lines as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I speak up, only that is not as well. If we because I mean, even in that family, you find afraid of nothing. You know, none. Sometimes they can't speak up for themselves. I keep saying that there's no any woman can life to living that way. No, it does not that way. We said we need that. We need to continuously encourage their own good. Because when women have a lot of attention, needs to, but you have to acknowledge everybody to be on with us. This is, like this is very much the coming. I really feel this as, and I know some of them are still putting the baby some are available. But what I'm gonna say is that please, if you have questions, if you have concerns, then if you have personal requests, please let us know. And please put your information chart, and Emily, you can also help to have.
I'll do that.
Okay.
So what would you like me to put exactly?
Your email. Yeah. Whatever you feel comfortable sharing with us, great.
Sure.
Emily, do you have any comment on this podcast? Any questions, comments? This is your.
Very interesting. Nice to meet you, Cheryl. And thank you for coming on. What's your most favorite of what you're doing?
Very, very, very. I'll say my most thing is one for my doctorate is one of my most interesting things. Basically, net global and then just having those conversations with them. My favorite things. I don't know the initiative I'm working on for healthcare providers. There are lots of there could be much more to come and find, so to speak.
You have gifts you bring to the world. I'm so to God. I mean, this is awesome. Yeah, it's not an task that you do, and you can bring with all your heart. My prayer is you get the grace and the blessings that you need going, because this is, but it's a noble, it's something that the world needs. So thank you so much for coming, and I'm going to have you back soon. All that you're doing is good for you.
Thank you very much, honor, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. For our audience, for being here, and every Tuesday, world of, are you with me that you enjoyed tonight's podcast, and to next week, stay safe or stay warm if you're in Canada. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good. Right.
My website. So let me delete the second one. The second one's a little bit wrong.
Okay.
The right one's not here, and I'll put in actually the retreat one.
Yeah. Good. Good.